Welcome to episode number 208 of the Beyond Social Media Show, the podcast for all of you marketing, advertising, public relations, and communications professionals. We're recording live on YouTube on November 2, 2017. A handful of topics to talk about tonight, including Bot Hunter, Movember is upon us, VR for mental health, virtual museums, Reddit nice washing, LinkedIn video ads, Facebook, Clunker app, Google Drive parked, shadow domains, and much, much more. BL kicks it off with best story of the week. Bill, what was the best story of the week?
Best story of the week is that you're doing Movember, and pretty soon you're going to be a hairy beast.
Yeah, we'll
I
see.
like it. So I thought the best story of the week was this Twitter account that hunts for the bots that push political opinions on people. It's from a Quartz story by Keith Collins, and the bot is created by Quartz, and it searches for Twitter accounts that tweet about politics, and then it scores them on a bot meter, which is a classification tool that applies machine learning to determine how likely the given account is to be a bot. And it's amazing how prevalent these are and how long they've been out there and how much they've been shaping political opinions for literally years. So the total proportion of bots on Twitter leaves out some important details, according to Emilio Ferrara, who's a computer scientist and a professor at the University of Southern California and who did a lot of the research. He said, we found that approximately 15% of the users in the political conversation 1 month prior to the 2016 elections were likely bots, and they were responsible to about 1 in 5 such political tweets, or nearly 20% of political tweets. He's also found that humans, and this is what it leaves out, humans retweet the bot-generated tweets at about the same rate as they do tweets posted by other humans. So what has happened is that there's all of this political cesspool created by these bots, and then people take it as real posts by real people, and it spreads, and it has in fact had an impact on the election. So Quartz says, well, nobody else is doing anything about it, so they decided to do it themselves. It's a fascinating story, which you can read in the show notes at beyondsocialmediashow.com
/208.
/208. Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's, real life is turning into a William Gibson novel, basically.
It
That's
seriously
pretty amazing.
is.
Yeah.
I know. And you know, I mean, everybody at Bloomberg had a story this week about how anxious everybody is. You know, everybody just thinks it's not going to get better. People can't sleep, people can't think, people can't eat. You know, it's bad.
Well, just remember, it's always darkest before it's completely black.
That's the problem. Yep,
Yeah.
in a nutshell.
Yeah. So, speaking of black, I'm trying to grow some black here on my lip. I started Movember, and my boss challenged me to do Movember. Movember, for those of you who haven't heard, is by the Movember Foundation. It's the only charity that tackles men's health on a global scale year-round. They address some of the biggest health issues, including prostate cancer, testicular cancer, mental health, and suicide prevention. So I'm taking the challenge, and every week through November, I'm going to be asking our listeners to donate, kind of like a pledge drive, but it'll be much less asking for money. But anyway, if you want to donate to my challenge, you can at mobro.co/D Erickson. That's mobro.co/D Erickson. And my goal is $200 right now. I've contributed 50 of my own, and I just need 10 listeners to contribute $15 each. Boom, I'll be at 200.
We could do it, Dave. I'm sure we could do it. No two ways about it. So, speaking of illnesses, virtual reality is starting to bring about some dramatic changes in mental health care. And this is from a Forbes article by Charlie Fink. And absolutely fascinating story. Skip Rozo, who's an associate director of medical virtual reality at the University of Southern California Institute for Creative Technologies, has been working with the US Army on ways to use virtual reality to treat soldiers' post-traumatic stress disorders for over a decade. And he was once sort of a lone visionary figure in the world of psychology, but now he's actually fathering an industry. He developed this system called Brave Mind, and it was initially funded by the Department of Defense in 2005. And it's able to accurately recreate an incident in a war zone like Iraq to activate extinction learning, which can deactivate a deep-seated fight or flight response and help to relieve fear and anxiety. Though it's a hard treatment for a hard problem, but it's in a safe setting, and that's why people are willing to try it. And it's done together with talk therapy, and it has been able to immeasurably help PTSD symptoms. So the Army also found that Brave Mind can help treat other traumas like sexual assault. So he started out, because he was out there all by himself, by tricking out PCs to create simulations. And he worked with the founder of Oculus, whose name is Palmer Luckey. I love that name. And Palmer Luckey was Rizzo's intern when he hacked this old Sony personal viewer made for watching DVDs as a head-mounted display for virtual reality. And then he started a Kickstarter campaign for the initial funding, and now the Army's spending $2 million on a 70-site clinical research trial for Brave Mind. And his results were recently published by the Journal of Anxiety Disorders. He received the American Psychological Association's 2010 Award for Outstanding Contributions in the Treatment of Trauma. And he's also working with a team that's creating artificially intelligent virtual patients that clinicians can use to practice the skills that they need for these challenging interviews and diagnostic assessment. Plus, VR has been an extraordinarily powerful training tool for people with high-functioning autism, because it allows them to practice the type of interpersonal skills they need to ace a job interview. And they can even change the settings to have the person interact with somebody who's a soft touch or hostile or an SOB. So his foresight and understanding how VR technology could be used in mental health treatment through simulation is now being emulated by dozens of companies, and they're trying to operationalize the use of VR in therapy and training. And in the article, it details the work that several other companies are doing, all of which are fascinating. So that will be in the show notes, beyondsocialmediashow.com/208 after the show.
Sounds fascinating. This technology, or I mean, it's VR experience coupled with talk therapy.
Yes.
So you really can't do it without a therapist actually guiding you through it, right?
Well, absolutely, and there'll be a video that shows somebody actually doing it, and you can see how hard it is for him, because he literally like breaks out in sweat. And
it sounds scary, actually, because I mean, if you're reliving that experience, I gotta imagine. But so it's in trials right now. It sounds like this is not widespread.
Well, they've been using forms of it for years, okay. and it's in trials in 70 cities right now. So it's pretty widespread, and it's also, the success rate of it is very high. So it's not really just an experiment at this point.
Good. Well, we didn't coordinate this, but I have a VR story as well. Not much more lighthearted than yours, but a good story nonetheless. This is from VR Scout, and actually, this is an old story that I just stumbled across. So, but still pretty cool. It's a VR Scout by Dieter Holger, who writes about a VR exhibit at the Carnegie. Is it Carnegie? Carnegie or Carnegie?
Carnegie.
Carnegie. I've heard people pronounce it Carnegie. I'm like,
yeah,
was I mispronouncing it out wrong all these years? So Carnegie Museum of Art that ran from April to September, which gave visitors a glimpse of dystopias in our near future using VR. The exhibit was called Styles and Customs of the 2020s. It was developed by New York studio Scatter and art collective DIS, and it transports you to fictional landscapes with 4 separate 3-minute experiences. Presented a digital dystopia inflected by rapid climate change, social unrest, shifting global economics, according to the Carnegie Museum of Art blog post. The creators of the experience used 3D photographic techniques to scan real-world objects and make digital representations of them. So users in the experience start out in an ancient cave and then travel through time to see the events that have brought humanity into decline. Doesn't sound like virtual reality. Kind of sounds like real life, right?
Yeah, right.
There is
real life.
There is red tape visible through the VR to keep visitors from wandering off. But we'll have some videos of it in the show notes. But it looks pretty cool.
I love that.
I love the idea of using museums. Libraries would be another place for them to use it for these different types of experiences that we don't think of traditionally as being places for museums and libraries. So.
Well, Google Arts and Culture, which is one of the coolest things that Google does, has some augmented reality tours and 360 video tours where you can literally go through a museum and look at all the paintings and sculptures and while you're learning about them. And I don't know why more people don't know about this. They do fascinating things there. Yeah. But I think this is really kind of incredible. I mean, Reddit has long been one of the internet's total cesspools for hatred, and they are trying to change their ways. They got a new president. I think that's part of it. But there was a time in the past where they got a president that everybody hated so much that she stepped down, but they have one now. And this is from a BuzzFeed story by Brianna Sachs. And Reddit says that they're banning hate speech and alt-right groups and that they're purging Nazi, white supremacist, and other hate-based groups from its site as part of a new policy change that they announced this week. And they also are banning violent material. Now, this has been their lifeblood, forever. So the popular site, which struggled on how to monitor and remove this stuff, said in a statement that it had decided to retool certain rules and regulations that were too vague and to ban material that, quote, encourages, glorifies, incites, or calls for violence or physical harm against an individual or a group of people, which is what they're famous for. So they said they did this to elevate user and moderator, user and moderator confusion about what's allowable on the site, and they're updating the content policy to better reflect their values as a company. And, this is important because they have 542 million monthly users. And they said, in particular, we found the policy regarding inciting violence was too vague, so we're trying to adjust it. And immediately after the changes were published, users quickly pointed out at least 10 subreddits pertaining to the alt-right and Nazism, and those were then removed, and others like I don't want to say it even, Whites Are Criminals was a subreddit. They took those out, and I don't even want to say what the other one is, but they deleted them. And so they're trying, and you know what, I hope that's a hopeful sign for the world.
Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it.
Well, it's happening.
I kind of feel like this is a PR move. You've heard of whitewashing before. I think this is called nice washing. They're trying to. I believe
you're right, but I think they have to do something.
Right. Well, I mean, I think the die has been cast. They are what people say they are, and that's exactly what they are.
Cesspool.
Nobody's going to buy. I would never ever recommend anybody use Reddit for pretty much anything. It's just too much of a risk. But I will
tell you something. There are some places on Reddit that are actually helpful conversations about business.
Yep, that's true. But sorry, it's when they take down the Trump subreddit, I'll believe them.
Yeah,
because that's kind of where it starts.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of that going around.
So yeah, here's a positive development in another platform from Adweek's David Cohen, who is writing about LinkedIn, which is always sort of playing catch up to the other social networks. Is playing catch up again, but they're getting there. They're running a closed beta test for video for sponsored content with a limited number of advertisers. So they're planning to make video for sponsored content available for all brands in the first half of 2018. So you'll be able to run video, do promoted posts with video. In the first half of 2018, the video ads will appear as standalone posts alongside other LinkedIn content and be labeled as promoted. The LinkedIn's reporting tools will provide advertisers with metrics like view count, views by percentage of completion, and more specific video-specific metrics will be added to its campaign reporting in the coming months, quote unquote. But everybody wants to be on the video bandwagon, and LinkedIn's finally jumped on.
Yeah.
Welcome aboard.
Right to the party. So I don't have any more good news. Do you?
I got one last one here. This is pretty cool. This is from an Ars Technica article by Jonathan Gitlin. Joshua Siegel is a researcher at MIT. He and his colleagues want to use your smartphone's microphone and accelerometers to diagnose what's wrong with your car. So they've had the research published in Engineering Applications of Artificial Intelligence, and it shows that audio data collected by a smartphone alone can diagnose an air filter that needs to be changed. So a dirty or occluded filter that's like blocked by leaves or something will let a different flow of air through than one that's working as it's supposed to be working. And that difference will create a different auditory and vibratory signals that a phone can pick up. A dirty or occluded filter won't send the optimal amount of cold, fresh air to your engine to cool it off, and that means worse fuel economy and increased wear. Siegel's paper cites previous work that has shown neural networks can use sound to identify air intake manifold leaks, ECT, and crankshaft sensor failures and cylinders with more than 95% accuracy. He plans to be building and testing the app that integrates a number of the functions within the next 6 months, and expects a commercial release might be ready in about 18 months. So that'd be pretty cool. Hold up your phone and diagnose your car, because I know nothing about cars.
Well, you know what, Dave? I know a little something about cars. I bet you wouldn't know that about me. But well, you can't do this anymore because my first car was a pre-computer engine, you know, and I was going to work one morning and my car just stopped and I got pushed into a gas station where the guy said to me, "Oh, you're going to need a new engine." And I thought, I don't know about that. So I asked my neighbor, who was a mechanic, and I said, "What's he talking about?" And he looked at it and he said, "You need to clean your battery cables."
Oh, God!
That was a woman. That's what happens to a woman. So I went and I took a course on how to fix my car. Not because I necessarily wanted to fix it. I just wanted to know when some jerk told me that you know, that's my battery cables. So I learned how to change my spark plugs and my oil and my brake shoes and all that kind of stuff, my muffler, and I could do all that sort of stuff. And it was very empowering. I mean, I didn't want to do it, but I knew how, and if I had to, I could. And it was very cool. Now there's no way that you could possibly fix a car because it's a computer.
Yeah. That's awesome. In my own defense, I mean, I do know nothing about cars, but in my own defense, I have changed an alternator before, so.
Yeah, I mean, it could be done, you know, but I mean, and it was really fun. We got under our cars and we looked at them. It was a lot of fun.
Very good.
Does that bring us to bad news?
It does. It does.
Well, there's so much of it. Damn. But, you know, we all know Facebook and Twitter and Google are all being interrogated in Congress, but they have much worse problems overseas than they do here, and they're really rather more disturbing. This is basically from a New York Times article by Kevin Roose, and what he's saying is that, and this is known, you know, we know this for a long time, in developing nations where Facebook pretty much is the internet and where the majority of people access the internet on a phone, information that they see on Facebook and Facebook-owned WhatsApp is part of Free Basics, which then becomes their primary news source. So unfortunately, people are fighting and dying based on the information that Facebook has provided, and that's a matter of very grave concern. And while they're not directly responsible for any violent conflict, viral misinformation is hardly unique to Facebook. But, you know, in the past, there were email hoaxes and there were urban legends that passed from person to person, but those sources are nowhere near comparable. They're not near as fast, as potent, especially among first-time internet users who may not be particularly skeptical of what they see online. So Roos notes in his article that violence against Rohingya has been fueled in part by misinformation and anti-Rohingya propaganda spread on Facebook. And doctored photos and unfounded rumors have gone viral on Facebook, and so many of them were shared by official government and military accounts. And in 2016, Facebook partnered with MPT, the state-run telecom company, to give access to their Free Basics program. And it has a limited number of internet services, including Facebook, that you can use without counting towards your data plan on your cell phone. So the number of Facebook users in Myanmar is now more than 30 million, up from 2 million in 2014. And these are really complex issues, and it may not be impossible. It may not be possible for Facebook to solve them, because after all, they're a technology company. They're not a global peacekeeping force, and they can't solve these problems overnight. But as their response to the Russia crisis has proved, they can act when they feel like their interests are threatened, and that is happening right now. So, you know, this is scary.
Yeah, well, they are a de facto utility. So
And yeah, they are.
That I have noticed that that I've been putting together some Facebook campaigns for a client. I've noticed that a lot of the targeting criteria that I used to be able to use is no longer available, or at least very limited.
I have a
So
story
it looks
about
like
that
they
today.
have changed their options based on some pressure they're getting, which really sucks for people who want to use advertising for its intended purpose and not manipulatively like Russians and political campaigns, because some of the most useful features are being taken away. So there's that. My story is fascinating, and I apologize in advance because it's about Trump, but it's more about the technology. It's fascinating because it's a type of hack that I have not heard of before. And so this comes from a Mother Jones article by David Korn and A.J. Vicens, and it was published yesterday. So Trump's account, the Trump Organization's account, GoDaddy account, was hacked 4 years ago. Somebody got access to it 4 years ago, probably through a phishing campaign. They got the credentials and logged in. They went in and created a bunch of subdomains. So a subdomain is when you go to Google Docs, it's docs.google.com. The docs part is the subdomain of the domain Google. So they created a bunch of subdomains for the domains that the Trump Organization had already registered. An example would be they were just using like nonsense letters, a string of letters that don't really make any sense. udb.donaldtrump.org, for example. So they created a bunch of these, like hundreds of them, and they pointed the domains to servers in St. Petersburg, Russia. So the websites that they were pointing to hosted malware, which was designed to give access to the visitors of those websites online accounts, and download malware, and they'd get your credentials and everything. The hack went undetected until this past week. So hackers,
after 4 years?
This past 4 years. So you know, either, I mean, the Trump Organization has horrible IT practices, because if they hadn't noticed it until this past week. But hackers, I mean, think about it. Hackers could have gained access to Trump Organization's email server. If they did that, then they could read any email that has gone through those servers. Very fascinating story. Never knew about this type of it's called domain shadowing, this type of hack, but there you go. Be
I'm
careful. Check
exhausted.
your GoDaddy account.
I'm exhausted from this. No, this week I work in the cloud. You work in the cloud, I'm sure, and I do, everything on Google Drive. And just in time for Halloween, Google Drive got really scary this week. And this is from a story by Brian Fung in the Washington Post. And, imagine you're working on a document in Drive, and suddenly you're locked out, and you get a message that says you have violated Google's terms of service. But it doesn't tell you what to do about it. It just locks you out. So that's
kind of sounds like YouTube.
Yeah, really. Right, exactly. You have a copyright strike. So that's what happened to a lot of people the other day. And for example, Rachel Bale, who's a wildlife crime reporter for National Geographic, said Tuesday her draft of her story was frozen by Google. So Google tweeted that the team handling Google Docs was looking into the matter. And then later Tuesday, they said they had made a code push that incorrectly flagged a small percentage of Google Docs as abusive, which caused these documents to be automatically blocked. Well, who knew that? And they said a fix is in place and all users would soon have access. But this is the creepy part of the story. Apparently, Google has algorithms that not only read your email and your customized search results, but they look for spam and malware according to the terms of service for Google Drive. And so the whole suite of Google productivity tools, of which Google Docs is a part, in the privacy policy, it explains how they treat your personal data and protect your privacy. So if you read the terms of service, it says, quote, "We collect information about the services that you use and how you use them. Like when you watch a video on YouTube, visit a website that uses our advertising services, or view and interact with our ads and content." Then it continues, this includes information like your usage data and preferences, Gmail messages, G+ profile, photos, videos, browsing histories, map searches, docs, and other Google-hosted content. Our automated systems analyze this information as it is sent and received and when it is stored. So then on Tuesday, they said, well, we don't technically read your files. We have this automated system which has a pattern matching the scan for indicators of abuse. No. They read your files.
No, they don't, BL. They don't. They don't. They're algorithms that are, I mean, if you took away the ability that Google has to do all those things, all those algorithms, the products would suck, and Facebook advertising would suck if you take away the algorithms and all that stuff that does it.
That may be true, but
it is true.
You should not. This means that there is no longer any place where you say only you have access to a document or a file or whatever. You shouldn't do that.
Well, that's true. No. I mean, what can you not do? Are you going to not use Google Docs anymore? Are you going to go back to storing all your stuff on your desktop?
No, of course not. I can't. I wouldn't have room on my computer. But I mean, it's just, anybody who's bitching about their lack of privacy just has to give it up. I mean, there is none. You're online. The price for using free services is that they get access to what you put online. That's the way it is. Don't bitch about it.
All right. So are we on to shiny new stuff?
No. This is the worst thing that Facebook's done in a long time. You're talking about, how they've taken away some tools. Well, how would you feel if your non-promoted posts might reach maybe 1% of your followers? Just when you think it can't get worse than it is. So what they did, this is from a Guardian story by Alex Hearn and a Court story by Nikhil Sonad. And so what some publishers say are happening to their data is Facebook is because of this. Facebook's testing a major change that would shift non-promoted posts out of its news feed, and it would as catastrophic for publishers who rely on it to reach their audience. So the new system's being trialed in 6 countries: Slovakia, Serbia, Sri Lanka, and almost all non-promoted posts are now shifted over to a secondary feed, leaving the main feed entirely focused on content from your friends and advertisements. So what's happened is user engagement with Facebook posts drops something like 60 to 80%. And if it's replicated more broadly, it would destroy many smaller publishers as well as larger ones with an huge reliance on social media referrals for visitors. So Nikki Sonrad at Quartz says, few of us at Quartz went to our personal explore sections to find out what content Facebook thought we were interested in. And what the world's largest social network delivered was the absolute dredges of the internet, from fake news about the Las Vegas massacre to the headline, homeless people react to magic tricks. So he gives examples of what he and 5 reporters at Quartz saw in their feeds, starting with the headlines. So here are the 5 headlines that he saw. This is a floating tent. Homeless people react to magic tricks. A woman went from size 22 to size 10 and hated it. America's Got Talent. And this is my favorite. This pig had a very rough start, but now he's living large and gets to travel all over. Recent destinations include Times Square, Vegas, and Hollywood. And so we'll link to the story. So his article says Facebook's new Explore feed is a cesspool of the internet.
Yeah, well, a couple of things on that too. I think, one, reporters are atypical users of Facebook. Reporters are researching stuff all the time. So
no. They're publishers. This is Quartz. They're publishers.
They're still reporters. They're news media people. They research stuff all the time. So their feeds are not typical of the typical Facebook users. So that's one.
Yeah, yours are going to be worse.
Two is so the reach for non-promoted posts is going to go from 2% to 1%. Is that what you're saying? Because it's been restricted all the time. It's restricted forever. So
it sucks. I mean, Facebook is a pay-per-play platform.
That's absolutely. It's an advertising platform. You don't depend upon it for organic reach at all. It's a pay-per-play. It's advertising platform. And publishers, by the way, publishers who are stupid enough to rely on it for their traffic.
But remember that wasn't it during the summer that Facebook was trying to lure publishers into the platform and promising them all sorts of things?
Buyer beware. You gotta. I mean, if you don't have a direct relationship with your audience, then you're screwed. You should know that.
Well, I know that, but Facebook, not every brand and every publisher on Facebook seems to know that, because everybody thinks that that's where they should put their brand. And I think that's just dumb.
You can put your brand there, but you got to use it for advertising and acquiring audience, not depending on Facebook for your audience.
Acquiring audience and getting that's getting into semantic differentials. Let's go to apps.
All right, so this is a cool little tool I found. BL, we recently, I don't know, a month or two ago. When did YouTube stop giving you the ability to create a custom embed with custom dimensions on the embed code for YouTube videos? Do you remember?
Well, they just changed how you do it, but it was about a month ago. You still can do it. You just have to click to do custom. You have to dig for it.
Well, I don't know. I haven't seen it. All I see is the default 560 pixel wide code they give us. I don't see any options.
You have to click on custom. I'll show you.
All right. So then if I can do it within there, I'll do it. But this one, this is an aspect ratio calculator that apparently is no longer needed because it's in YouTube somewhere.
Yeah, it is. I'll show you. They hid it very nicely.
So anyway, the aspect ratio calculator gives you the correct aspect ratio for videos. So it's a little tool that you start with common presets, HD video at 16:9, standard monitor at 4:3, classic film at 3:2, even CinemaScope at 21:9. So if you have a CinemaScope video you want to upload to YouTube, you might want to use this because they don't have that setting. You plug in your pixel width and it spits out the correct pixel height, so you know how to properly size your embed code for your video. So I was going to say it's useful since YouTube eliminated the custom ratio feature, but apparently
they didn't eliminate it. I'll show you how it works. That's how I do the video for the posts every week.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, but that still sounds helpful because there are many reasons why you would want that tool. Sure. So I think it's still well worth knowing about. Well, I have started using something called 10% Happier, which is a guided mindfulness meditation app, and it has with it a podcast for people who are interested in meditation but allergic to the woo-woo. And it comes from Dan Harris of ABC News, he says meditation can't make you 100% happier, but it could probably make you 10% happier, so why don't you try it? And so it has meditations that are led by some highly respected guides who just don't BS, and it takes anywhere from 3 to 7 minutes a day. It's entirely up to you how much time you spend. There's an app, there's a podcast, there's a book. I recommend it just because I love the way the guy talks who does the meditations. And, you know, I've been doing it every day. I'm not sure if I'm 10% happier yet, but I expect I will be.
How do you measure that?
Well, they do suggest ways that you measure it, you know, and I have actually observed some of this, you know, where something that would make you angry doesn't make you react, like not as quick. And so if it's not as quick, you might not do it.
I think that's simply because you're spending more time meditating and not watching TV.
I don't watch TV, except for Stranger Things and Ray Donovan. No, right. That's not why, Dave. I knew you would say that. Somehow I knew, because you are not a believer in things like this.
Well, I'm not a believer. I just not. I don't know what I am.
You're a practical kind of guy. You want, give me the facts, man.
Right, yeah. All right. So I was quoted in this story, and this is a bit of a plug for by Kayla Matthews from House. Is that how you pronounce it?
I think so.
House, the home improvement site. Anyway, the article is "Are smart speakers here to stay?" So she quotes me saying basically, "Of course they are."
You have them everywhere, right?
I have 4 of them so far, so I'm probably going to get an Amazon the one with the video screen too for the kitchen. So yeah.
So you can cook.
Yeah. So do the recipes.
For recipes.
Yeah.
That's fun.
All right, let's wrap this up. Social media numbers. This is social media channels that drive B2B leads from Demand Wave. Social channels driving lead and revenue for US B2B marketers. I'm just going to cite the leads for the sake of time, but not surprisingly, LinkedIn leads the pack with 62% saying that social media channel drives leads for them. Facebook follows up with 37%, Twitter 34%, and surprisingly to me, YouTube at only 17%. Instagram is 5%, Pinterest is 2%, Snapchat is 1%. Those aren't surprising at all, but YouTube I think would be higher. So it seems like they probably are not using YouTube, optimizing it the best that they could to generate leads. And I think most people are just think of YouTube as the place to host your video so you can embed it on your website rather than a place to develop leads in and of itself.
Oh boy, can I tell you that? I mean, I've been doing research trying to find these groups and these music groups, and that's exactly what they do. They put the video up. They don't fill out the about. They don't fill out where you can find them. They don't tell you, you know, anything else about them. And since, you know, you and I both do research pretty much all day long, I hunt them down. But I mean, the opportunities they're clearly missing by not doing that. And so many brands don't do it either. And there are very few brands that know enough to use the 500 or is it 800 words that you can put in the description of your video that will help you with search. I mean, you see, you know, 10 words or no words. Sometimes they're just no words. Yep. You know, I would say that perhaps that's YouTube not explaining well enough.
Yeah, that may be the case, but I think it might be the lack of creativity among marketers as well.
There's a lot of that going around. That's for damn sure, right? So does that bring us to the end of the show?
It does.
Okay, so I do have one little bit of news. I'm going to get a photograph for a photo exhibit. I'm excited about it. Yeah. Oh, it's a woman named Susie Lang, and she has an Instagram feed on the wisdom of women over 60. And I am going to be one of those people. We're going to do this shoot, and the cool part about it is it's going to be an exhibit. It's ultimately going to be a book, and her photographs are gorgeous. She did a friend of mine, and she just got her. I mean, she just really got her. So, basically she said, we're going to go out, we're going to play, but dress up, so it'll be fun. That's going to happen in November. So,
oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
And appropriate. A woman of wisdom. So share with us, report back when you do the photo shoot and tell us what it's like. Share with us the photos and tell us about the experience. That's cool.
Yeah, it is. I'm really excited about it. So thanks for watching episode 208 of Beyond Social Media Show. Like all our episodes, this one will be on beyondsocialmediashow.com/208. And we would love it if you'd let us know what you think by leaving us a review. And we would really love you if you subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, but I'll get to that in a second. So I'm BL Ochman, and on Twitter, I am at What's Next. I blog at what'snextblog.com. I'm What's Next Blog on YouTube. And David Erickson is D Erickson on Twitter. And he blogs at estrategyblog.com and creativepr.com/blog, both of which you should subscribe to and not miss an issue because they're really very cool. And he's eStrategy on YouTube. The show is BeyondSocialMediaShow.com, and we're Beyond Social Media Show is on YouTube. On Twitter, we're BS Media Show. On iTunes, we're Beyond Social Media Show.com/iTunes. The link will be in the show notes. We're on Stitcher. We're on iHeartRadio. You have no excuse for not listening to us. We are everywhere, and we will be back next week, same time, same bad channel. And we thank you for being here tonight.
Thanks for watching.